Hello, thank you for joining us today. We are so excited to bring you Monique Wells from the Wells International Foundation. Good morning, Monique.
Good morning to you, although it's afternoon here, late afternoon.
That's the thing, is Monique is actually joining us from Paris, France. So there's a little time difference there. Why don't you, Monique, please give us a little bit of your history and your background?
Well, sure. So everybody wants to know why I'm in Paris, and I do live here. I've lived here for the past 25 years. I'm going on 26. I'll celebrate my 26th anniversary here in June, so not too far away. But I was born in Houston, Texas, grew up there. I became, or through some of the things that we'll talk about later in this interview, I became interested in veterinary medicine and pursued that career, and went to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia to do my undergraduate and veterinary studies. And then I went on to get a master's degree in pathology. And fast forward many, many years later, I landed a job in France as a veterinary pathologist working for the drug safety division of a drug company. And that I came
Wow.
here in 1992.
Wow, quite a varied history to end up in France. And so I guess that kind of explains how you transitioned from Houston, Texas to Paris, France, right?
Yes, yes, yes. But there were steps in between. So I did mention that I went to school.
In Philadelphia.
I went to school in Philadelphia, and then I did my master's in Columbus, Ohio, at the Ohio State University. And then I moved back to Texas very briefly, studied for my board exam. And when I passed that exam, the company I was working for moved me out to the West Coast, and I lived for a few years in the Bay Area. And it's from there that I moved to Paris. And so I've had quite an interesting journey, I have to say myself.
And that's why you don't have an accent. there's no detectable accent at all.
Well, that's good, I think, because I could have all kinds of things. I could have a mixture of a Southern accent and a Philadelphia accent and then a French one.
And a little
And then,
French thrown in. That's funny. Okay, so tell us a little bit more then. How and why did you start the Wells International Foundation?
okay, so this is a two-part story. So the back history is that I guess it was in 2012, I received an award from an organization called Powerful Women International. And I went to an event to accept that award, and it was an all-day event, and people gave presentations. And there was a woman there named Sharita Herring who talked about nonprofits. And she gave a great presentation, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, but I didn't think it had anything to do with me. We went to dinner that night, the awardees and the people who organized the event. And Sharita just talked and talked and talked about how great nonprofits were and how you could do anything with the nonprofit. And she really made an impression on me. But my overall reaction was, this sounds too good to be true. And that was my take home. I mean, I said all of it to myself, all of this sounds just really, really fabulous. And I just can't believe that that's really true. And I just put it away. I put that to the back of my mind. Years later, I'm in France. I am in the process of organizing an art exhibition for an American expatriate painter. His name is Buford Delaney. He's deceased. And I came across his story. That's a long story. I won't tell you how I came across his story.
Next time.
Yeah. But I became very passionate about his life as an expatriate in Paris, and then, discovered his art. I'm a science-based person. I never had any interest in art really growing up.
Mhm.
But as I learned more about him, I came to realize that in order to understand him, I needed to understand his art. And long story short, I began to organize an art exhibition here and was told that I could apply to this foundation called the Terra Foundation, which supports American art. Naively thinking, oh, sure, they'll give us the money.
Just fill out an application.
Sure, why not?
Right.
Not. And so,
Not.
and I realized, okay, that I couldn't just apply to the Terra Foundation or any other foundation. I needed to have some kind of organization that would give me,
Credibility, kind of?
yes,
I
and
see.
All of these things that Sharita had said sort of rushed back into my mind. And there were lots of other things going on in my life where I felt like I needed some kind of umbrella to manage all of my professional and personal passions. And it came to me that this nonprofit idea could be the way to do that. And so I reached out to Sharita after all of these years, and she helped me to get my nonprofit founded. And this is no small feat. We put in an application with the IRS. It's a 501c3, and we were approved in less than 20 days.
Oh my gosh. So that was a fortuitous meeting with Sharita way back.
It truly, truly was. It was one of a series of miracles that I attribute to doing this art exhibition. And I've never looked back.
Wow. That's great. And so what exactly do you focus your energy on and your resources with the Wells International Foundation? And kind of along the same lines, what basically is your mission?
Okay. So our mission is to empower women and people of African descent to reach their highest potential through programs, through arts, through literacy, through travel and study abroad, and other kinds of educational and cultural programs. So that statement sort of wraps up all of my professional and personal passions. This organization really is about my personal and professional passions, and we've already made just significant inroads into helping many, many people in many areas based on projects or through projects that are in those different areas. And we have what I call strategic focus areas. We have 6 of those, and I've mentioned 4 of them. So the arts is one, travel and study abroad is one, literacy is one, STEAM education. STEAM is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics.
Oh, I've always only heard that as STEM. I've never heard it as STEAM, adding the arts in there, but that's brilliant. I like that.
Yes, yes, and many people do. It's actually a bit of a movement. You can, if you Google STEM to STEAM, you'll see a lot of that.
Well, and it's basically
And
you were STEM to
whole
STEAM.
idea is that the arts are so, I
Right.
really was.
Right.
I really, really was. And you know, I had never thought of that. But yes, I really was. And the arts, you know, that's all about, you know, your creativity and everything. And all of that helps you to be a better scientist, or to apply math better, or to be a better engineer, and to be more creative with regard to developing technology and using it. And so it's really a no-brainer. But somehow, you know, we got off on STEM, and then some very innovative people and creative people said, you know, we need to put the arts in there. And it truly is a movement. You can Google it and you'll find all kinds of stuff about that.
That's great. That's interesting. So did we
And
cover
then,
all 6 areas of your focus then?
so I think, okay, so what did I say? The arts, literacy, travel, study abroad, STEAM. Okay, so 2 left. So women's empowerment is another one. And then the last one is very particular to my profession as a veterinary pathologist and toxicologist. And that is, we do preclinical safety training and mentoring in developing nations.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a bunch of broad categories kind of all coming together. Like you said, the umbrella of, you know, basically encompassing all of you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, and so with all of those, I mean, 6 different kind of areas of focus, where do you focus your energy and resources?
Well, I have to, you know, I'm the founder and CEO, so I have to look at everything, but we are strategic in what we do. And as much as we can, we combine strategic focus areas into a single project. So, and we've done that sort of organically. It's, again, some of this sort of like,
Almost synergy.
yeah, it just sort of happens. It's not like I start out and say, okay, we need to do a project that's going to incorporate X, Y, and Z. We just have an idea, and then these things just sort of come together.
It all picks up steam.
And it does. It does. quite beautiful. I love it. I love it. You're giving me all kinds of things. You're giving me all kinds of language that I can use in
Is
my
is
promotional materials.
is my marketing cap on?
I think so. I need to use it more often.
No, that's good. But it's good because it is. That's exactly what you're saying. And when it does happen organically like that, like you said, if you're putting your intention out there to focus on these things, it does organically come together to support you, and all those little things, like pop up. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay, so could you describe maybe a success, either recently or not recently, that your nonprofit has had?
well, I certainly can. In fact, I can do more than that. I can give you a couple. So we're not that old, I should say. First of all, we were incorporated on October 1st, 2015. So we've just passed our second anniversary, heading
Happy
towards,
anniversary.
thank you. And our first event, our inaugural event, was that art exhibition that I talked about, and it was a phenomenal success. And it, unbeknownst to me, it brought together, I shouldn't say unbeknownst. When I started out, I wasn't planning on this, but it just sort of naturally happened that we had 3 of our 6 strategic focus areas come together in that art exhibition. The exhibition itself was the arts. We had STEAM because we invited educators from the United States, K through 12 educators, to come to Paris to learn how to integrate arts into the teaching of science and technology and math. And so that was a STEAM project. And then we had, for travel and study abroad, we had students come from the University of Arizona to create a digital app that worked with about half of the paintings and works on paper that were shown in this exhibition. So they came here. This is technology married with art and also study abroad. And as I, it just sort of,
Wow.
people would just sort of, you tell somebody what you're doing, they're like, oh, well, how about this? And I'm thinking, that's a great idea. Why don't you come on, let's partner, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that this event, which was fabulously successful, incorporated 3 of our 6 strategic focus areas and without any effort.
Wow. What a great opportunity for those students.
Yes, and I am really proud to say that of those university students, there were only 6 of them plus their professor who came. 5 out of 6 of them traveled out of the country for the first time to do this project.
Wow. So yeah, not just the opportunity to work with a foundation like in a real-time setting and create an app and have it be real time, but to travel to France to do it. I mean, that's a win, win, win.
A win, win, win. Yes,
Wow,
yes,
that's
yes.
great. That's really interesting. What was another success you'd had? You said you had a couple to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So out of that art exhibition, all kinds of things have popped up. And well, the one that's really, really, it's like right now and is going to be, if all goes well, it will be a multiple year project, is a connection between a Paris elementary school and a Knoxville elementary school. Buford Delaney was born in Knoxville, Tennessee. He expatriated to Paris in 1953 and he died here in 1979. So that was the artist whose work we showed. So we're connecting children from an elementary school in Paris, and that elementary school is actually located in the neighborhood where Buford Delaney's last studio was located.
Wow.
And so that was his neighborhood, with an elementary school in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is where he was born and where he lived until he was in his early 20s. And this project is called Class Duo, Paris, Knoxville, and the children have met each other through video conference, and we have video conferences, and in between the video conferences, they're doing art. And during the video conferences, they show their art and they talk to each other. They're learning a new language. So the French kids are learning how to speak English, and the English kids are learning how to speak French. And they are learning about this man and about the things that were important to him. And they're learning about art as well through doing their own arts. Based on his life story and elements of his life. So that's
Wow.
incredible. Yes. And for literacy, we are partnering with the Houston Public Library. We did a readathon in Houston last June called People and Pajamas. where kids came to this neighborhood branch, the neighborhood branch where I actually grew up reading. And adults read to children all day. And the children got to take home books. So not to borrow books, but actually they were given books to take home to start home libraries.
Oh, wow.
And parents came also, so the parents could see how their children reacted to having adults read to them aloud. And this was to encourage parents to read to their kids at home. And all of this was done in the summer to prevent what they call summer slide. I don't know if you've heard of that. But that's when, if you don't do any sort of, intellectual or, educational activity over the summer, kids will lose ground and they will go into their next grade sort of behind.
Their brains get a little mushy.
Yeah. And so in this particular neighborhood, it's a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so this whole effort was to prevent summer slide and do all of these other things. And the event was so successful that we are partnering with the library to do a 24-hour readathon
Oh,
this year.
wow.
Yeah, I'm very
Wow.
excited about that. And then the last thing I want to say, just for successful events, is that for women's empowerment, we've done two retreats in Paris, one in 2016 and one in 2017, for women leaders around the theme of leadership, communication, and creativity. And these women come together. They're very successful women, and they're bringing to the table a particular challenge that they have with regard to their leadership. Women leaders can really be very isolated, and they can even feel lonely because when they reach a certain level, there just aren't many people around them like
Mm-hmm.
themselves, and they sometimes feel perhaps even a little bit anxious about sharing some of their concerns and fears with people,
That they're
in their
trying to lead.
organization, or or people who are their peers, but who are men,
Right.
because
Then it can feel intimidating, like it's showing a vulnerability that maybe I shouldn't be in this position because I have questions about this, which isn't true, but it's a valid fear.
it is. It can be that kind of fear, or it can be a fear of, well, I know I'm as good as all of these guys, but if I show that I'm vulnerable, they might try to use that against me, or I might not get that next promotion or
Right.
whatever. There are all kinds of things that go into that. But in any event, we've had two retreats about leadership and how you can become a better leader by looking at how you communicate and how your creativity can help you to frame your communications so that they really give you the results that you want. And so we've I just can't tell you how excited I am about all of that. And
Right.
yeah, it's just fantastic. And we're going to be doing an International Women's Day event here in 2019, to sort of expand the work that we're doing with women leaders.
And
And
so I didn't mean to interrupt. Is it somewhat like a masterminding session where you actually bring, say, an issue you're having and kind of put it to all of the women peers and be able to say, this is what I'm struggling with. What would you suggest and stuff like that? Is it that type of a format?
well, the LCC workshop, which is leadership, communication, creativity for short, there is some, excuse me, there is some masterminding that goes on in the afternoon, but
Mm-hmm.
in the morning, they're actually presented with a sort of a curriculum. It sounds very stiff, but it's really very fluid and very fun. And there are scenario-based exercises which show you
Oh,
how you perhaps react with bias in certain situations. And then you just sort of talk through those things. So everybody does those exercises together, go around the room, and you say, based on this story that's just been told, and so person reacted in the story this way. Well, how would you change that? How could that person have done that better or differently? To get a better outcome. And so after going through several exercises that way, and then just having some discussions about how they feel about things, if they had been in a similar situation, then they take all of that, and after a wonderful lunch, then there's the masterminding session, as you say, where people buddy up. So it's only two people, and you have brought your challenge to the workshop. So you present your challenge, the other person brainstorms with you, masterminds with you, and then after a certain period of time, you switch, and the other person presents her challenge to you. And then you can, depending on how much time there is left, because people really get, excited and involved in this. If there's enough time, then the people who are paired up can actually move to another partner and do the same procedure. So you'll get at least 2 different perspectives on your challenge and 2 different sets of brainstorms.
That's great. Wow.
Yeah. And you leave this retreat with an action plan. And I invite people, although they're not forced to, I invite people to choose an accountability buddy with somebody who's in the group or somebody outside if they prefer, just to check in with, so that they can actually keep track of their progress on this action plan.
Meaning beyond the workshop.
Beyond the workshop.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Making them actually stick to a plan.
Yeah, I mean, so many things, people spend so much money on training and then they leave and it's just like it never happened.
Put the book up on the shelf and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And along the same lines with your empowering women, I know I've seen on your website this concept of L to the 3, which is lifestyle, legacy, and leading by example. I think that's such a cool little, again, putting my marketing hat on, I see the L to the 3. But can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. So even before I founded my nonprofit, which I call WIF for short, Wells International Foundation. You can't say that too many times, you get tongue-tied. So I say WIF like a whiff of fresh air. And even before I started WIF, I was working on an idea for an organization for women leaders that I call the L Cubed Alliance. So cubed is to the 3rd power. And the lifestyle leadership and leading by example comes from that organization. And it's all about making sure, to the best of your ability, that you are being the best person, the best leader, the best, whatever it is that you are, the best spouse, the best partner, the best community leader, whatever it is, and it could be all of the above.
Pathologist.
Yeah. But with doing that with grace, doing that with ease. I mean, all of that, it sounds terribly, terribly difficult. And of course, it's very challenging, but it doesn't have to be difficult in the sense that you just feel like you're always being beaten down, or that you're never quite, up to speed with it, or things like that. There is a way to achieve any and all of those things with relative ease and with peace, with inner peace. And so the workshop, or rather the alliance, is organized and conceived to provide that sort of safe place for women to come and become that better person.
Wow.
And so when I founded the Wells International Foundation, I wanted that to be part of our Women's Empowerment Initiative. And so when we do our International Women's Day event next year, that's going to be the theme: lifestyle, legacy, and the successful woman is the working title, but it's going to be about lifestyle, legacy, and leading by example.
Wow, that's inspiring.
Great. I hope so. I hope everybody's inspired.
Yeah, that's great. What would you say WIF's biggest challenge is? See, now I've got the lingo.
All right. So without a doubt, our biggest challenge is funding. You've heard, we are very, very ambitious as an organization. We have done a tremendous amount with actually fairly little money. But to go to the next level, even to sustain what we're doing right now, and certainly to take our projects and our strategic focus areas to the next level, we have got to bring in more money, and we've got to bring in money consistently. It can't be this, okay, let's just raise money at the end of the year and do one other thing during the year and hope that that's enough. We need to expand our donor base. We need to become known by corporations who want to support the kinds of activities that we do. And we need all kinds of support in that area, in kind as well as cash.
Right. And that seems to be one of the biggest challenges for most nonprofits is you've got this huge mission that you're wanting to accomplish, but a lot of your time gets taken up and kind of consumed by being able to survive by needing funding. So you're caught between this, we want to support our mission and not put all our energy in fundraising because that's not your mission. Your mission isn't simply to raise funds.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I think that's a very common challenge for most nonprofits. And
Yes,
so
you're
you
right
said,
in.
and you had said that you're looking for kind of, those business sponsorships and stuff or connections. How do you connect with companies that support your cause, your several causes?
Several causes, yeah. Well, basically, the majority of what we do is that as the founder and CEO, and then the board, and we have a small board. We have a board of 4. Just brought on a 4th board member. We go out, every board member has a network. One of the things that we look for when we bring a board member on is what kind of network do you have? You are passionate about our cause, and we love that, but we need your network to feed into our cause as well, if at all possible. And so we look for board members who have a network that is compatible with one or more of our strategic focus areas. And then outside of that, it's always just going out onto the web and going onto social media and talking about what we do and looking at who's out there and seeing who we can connect with.
Right. I see. Interesting. And then where do you see Wells International Foundation, say, in 5 years?
Well, if all goes well, if we conquer this funding thing,
When you
then
do. When you
when,
conquer it.
well, yes, of course, when we conquer it, um, we are going to be, in all of our strategic focus areas, we are going to have ongoing projects. So I mentioned the readathon that we're partnering with the Houston Public Library on. The idea is to have that done annually and to move from having it at one neighborhood branch of the library in Houston to several branches. And then eventually, I can see probably it'll be much farther out, but taking that concept to other cities and doing it elsewhere. For the International Women's Day event, we want that to be an annual thing. For the LCC workshop, we want to continue to have that annually, but perhaps make it a little bit bigger and add an extra day so that we can do a day of leadership, but also a personal day of introspection. Um, for the class duo project that I talked about, where we've connected this school in Paris and the school in Knoxville. This is an ongoing project. The children in this project are 7 to 10 years old. And the idea is that they will stay in this project until they quote unquote graduate. So children who start at the age of 7 will have 3 years of benefit of
Wow.
being in this project. And then, we'll bring in new people, new youngsters every year, and then a certain number will graduate. And the idea is to have these kids travel
And
so
study abroad.
and study abroad so that they can go and meet their video pals. And so, our projects are not one-off. We want them to be what's the word not sequential, what is the word that I'm looking for?
Well,
So
they continue to grow and they continue to evolve.
yes, we want them to be evolving. Yes. And, after a while, depending on how big the organization grows, we will reach a critical mass and we'll say, okay, so these are our projects and we've helped, zillions of people through these projects, and we'll continue to do these projects. We don't have to, have 50 zillion projects, but I would like to have a signature project for each of our strategic focus areas and have that project be ongoing.
I see. Very, very lofty but manageable goals, I
Yeah.
think. And
Yes.
so, in lieu of all of that we've learned basically about your organization, how would you yourself like to be viewed as the leader of Wells International Foundation?
Well, I think so. It goes to the leading by example part of L cubed, or L to the third power. leading by example. I am a person who has built this organization based on my personal and professional passions. And through my personal and professional passions, this organization is changing the world, and it is changing it in a positive way, and it is changing it in a tangible way. And so I think what I would like my example to be is that you, whoever you are, male, female, doesn't matter what age, what race, whatever, if you have a passion, whether it's personal or professional or both, and you believe in that, you can change the world through that passion, whatever it is, and make the world a better place. And I just want to be remembered as somebody who said, I'm just going to do this, and let's just see what happens.
And it isn't too good to be true.
And it isn't too good to be true. It is absolutely possible, and we just need more people to go out there and do it.
Right. Well, I mean, and you will be making such a lasting, huge impact, especially on the children in the elementary school program that are in both in France and in Tennessee. So it's like, not only are they learning about a different culture and what have you, but they're actually putting a face to somebody who's the other, who, instead of being like, well, we're Americans and that's it, it's like they're actually putting a face and a name and a personality and, getting some depth to a person, children, just like them, who live in another country. That right there is, I think, invaluable. Invaluable, yes. Okay, so we're just about to run out of time here, unfortunately, but what's the one thing you'd like our audience to take away from our conversation? Just one thing?
Yeah. Okay, so so there's something that comes to mind. I'm starting to get a little frog in my throat. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's a quote. It's a quote by Denzel Washington, who is he's somebody who I admire so much because he's just such a giving person. And he said, there's a couple things he said. One thing he said is that giving is the most selfish thing you can do because it feels so good. And I believe that just to the nth degree. And when you give, particularly when you give through something that you are passionate about yourself, you're giving so much and you are helping so many people, but you are so helping yourself and so, just feeding your own persona.
Yeah, you're nurturing your own soul.
Yes, you are, because it is. Giving it just feels so good. And so why not make yourself feel good and help somebody else at the same time?
Right.
And the other thing that he says is, it's a long quote, but something to the effect of, it doesn't matter how much stuff you accumulate or even how many things you accomplish in your life. It's really about who you've helped become a better person, and again, what you've given.
Right.
And so I just encourage people to take that to heart. It really, really, it's not Pollyanna, it really feels good.
Right, it really does feel good.
You are feeding yourself while you're doing this. And
right.
So if anybody out there is, interested in any of our strategic focus areas, we are all about building partnerships. And if you have anything that you might like to contribute, whether you want to volunteer or maybe you want to, throw your hat in the ring to be a board member or give money or anything, anything, or in kind, really in kind donations are also quite helpful depending on the project. Please contact me.
Okay, and what we'll do is put your contact information in your website after the video's over, so that they have a great place to find you, so that they can find you.
Okay, fantastic.
Great. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat today. I really enjoyed it, and we enjoyed learning a little bit more about Wells International Foundation, and look forward to seeing what you've got coming.
All right. Well, we will not disappoint. Trust me. It's going to be fab.
Excellent. Well, have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. And you have a good day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.